Hey guys, John here. So a couple years ago, I had a Toyota Tacoma TRD Pro as a press vehicle, and I did a comparison video in the week that I had it, comparing the 4Runner to a Tacoma. So for a new buyer who is on the fence between a 4Runner or a Tacoma, which options would be best for them. So I'll link that video for you guys up in the iCard up above, because it kind of shows the differences of these two vehicles, some of the things that they have in common, but it was a little bit unfair just because it was kind of just stats, and I really only had experience with the Tacoma for a week versus now I've had this Tacoma and a 4Runner. I've had both of them for a year, and this one is sold now, so I want to give you guys a full owner's opinion of both if you guys are in the market for either a 4Runner or a Tacoma and you don't know which one to pick yet. So let's get into some differences and similarities. So we'll start out with what these things have in common. If you're shopping them for an off-road vehicle, if you're curious about aftermarket parts, well, as you can see on both of them, they're done up pretty decently. So rock sliders for everything, aftermarket headlights for everything, different wheels that fit, lift kits, bumpers, anything you could really think. The whole Toyota overland, off-road, third-party accessories are fine. They are fine with any Toyota vehicle you do, whether it's a 4Runner, Tacoma, Tundra. Toyotas are the first vehicles to the scene for aftermarket companies to really put their R&D into, because they know that us enthusiasts and owners take these vehicles out and we want to off-road them. So if you're worried about accessories, well, don't worry about which one you go with, because both are pretty catered to by aftermarket companies. So the next thing we'll talk about is powertrain and how they were to drive. This 4Runner has a 4.0 liter V6 mated to a 5-speed trans. If you're shopping for a brand new Tacoma, they have a 3.5 liter V6 with a 6-speed transmission. Now, I live in Florida, so this truck for me, it didn't shift up and down like crazy, like some people have issues in more hilly areas, more mountainous areas. So for me, this drivetrain and this drivetrain perform pretty much the exact same. The 4Runner, I have put a little bit more weight on, so the Shift Power USA throttle enhancer in that helps out quite a bit. The Tacoma, I never put a pedal commander in it, never put a throttle enhancer in it, and I did not have really any issues with this truck at all driving it, where I wanted just more out of the engine. It does shift a little bit more than the 4Runner does, so this one, you know, in and out of 6th gear to 5th gear just a little bit, but nothing crazy to where it was super annoying. So driving, they pretty much handled the same. The Tacoma can tow a little bit more than the 4Runner can. So if you're looking for that aspect out of it, more utility, I would pick Tacoma. But if you're looking for just daily driving, the miles per gallon in the Tacoma are actually better than the 4Runner I got. The Tacoma, I've been hanging around 18, 19. 4Runner, I'm down to 17, 18. So not a huge difference. Driving wise, these things feel the exact same, except for the seat. So coming on into the inside of the cab of the Tacoma, this is going to be a big thing because this is a truck, the 4Runner is an SUV. The back seat of the Tacoma, non-existent really. So this was super apparent in the year that I had this truck, whether it was a box, people in the back, whatever. My driving position, you could barely fit an adult in this back seat. Like, their legs will be hitting this seat right here. So back seat in the Tacoma compared to the 4Runner, pretty much non-existent. You put a box, anything back here, pretty much renders this area useless in my opinion. Coming up to the front seat, the seating position in the Tacoma, a little bit worse than the 4Runner. For me, I sit up really high in this too, and I feel like I'm kind of just flat with the floor a little bit. So it is comfortable to drive. I'd rather my seating position be what it is in the 4Runner, but the Tacoma seating is a little bit more uncomfortable for me versus the 4Runner. So for the 4Runner, when you're sitting in the back of it, this is my driving position. You could see that the rear occupants have a bit more space, and this seat actually reclines in the 4Runner. So whereas the Tacoma is fixed because you have the back of the cab right here, you can't recline the seats back at all because you have the back of the cab. This one right here for the 4Runner, you're able to recline the seats back. So even if you are pushed back here, if you're a taller driver, the 4Runner has a bit more space. Coming up to space in the front seat, talking about driving position, tons of room here. The 4Runner is very comfortable, a little bit taller of head space too versus what I had in the Tacoma. So driving position, 4Runner, better than Tacoma. Let's talk about materials while we're on the inside. 4Runner is built in Japan. My 4Runner is just stupid solid. This thing is so solid. Interior quality of the 4Runner, absolutely amazing. No issues with that. If you're worried about quality for the Tacoma because it's built in Mexico, to be completely honest with you guys, I had zero issues on the inside with this Tacoma at all for quality. It was put together really, really well. The only gripe I have is the center console area. These seats are like super close to it. I don't know why, but they're like really close that they just wobble and make noise with the center console. So it's like it's pushed a little bit too close together. But wind noise, super little with the Tacoma, no creaks and rattles. I mean, everything is just super solid for it being a truck built in Mexico versus the 4Runner, which is built in Japan. One of the biggest differences you're gonna see whether you need a truck or an SUV. So this is the biggest thing, is the back of it. So are you gonna use a truck for truck stuff? So this Tacoma has a 6-foot bed. The other models, the Tacoma, you could elect for a 5-foot bed. I use this truck so much. I mean, I used it a lot, whether it be our Airbnb stuff, throwing crap in the back of it, house renovations. A ton of stuff went on into the bed of the truck, which was nice, and it didn't have to go into the cab of the truck. Whereas if it was a rainy day, you don't want a bunch of stuff back here. That was when the back seats started to get filled up, let's say with boxes or miscellaneous items. But we use this Tacoma a lot. I mean, shoot, we just got our Christmas tree this year with the back of the Tacoma. When you come to a 4Runner standpoint, well, you could get a roof rack if you want, add stuff to the top of that. Or, I mean, you do have your cargo area, which is pretty big. You can get a sliding cargo tray, which is nice too, to put heavier stuff on if you need to and set it up in there and put it in the back. And the seats of the 4Runner do fold completely flat. I mean, you'll get close to like a 5-foot long area, maybe even closer to 5.5 feet back here. So I mean, it can act as a bed, and if you're not worried about, you know, potentially scratching up your plastic or anything back here, this can act as a bed. And it's a lot taller too, and everything is secure in the back of the 4Runner, whereas if you were to put it into the bed of the Tacoma, if you had a locking tonneau cover, yeah, that's cool, but everything here is exposed to potential theft, the elements, whatever it may be. Whereas in the 4Runner, if you put everything into the 4Runner, close it up, I have darker window tint on mine, it's more secured, and it's more of a deterrent for people to like break into a vehicle, whether if stuff was out there. So that is one of the biggest things, obviously. Truck versus SUV. How are you going to use it for function? What do you need to do with it? Do you need more of a truck stuff? You can throw dirt bikes in the back, firewood, anything. You just want to like go to the beach maybe with it, put all your sand and crap in the back, hose it out, blow it out. Whereas this, it's more of a cleanup process, everything in there. And then if you want the full space too, now you're sacrificing seats in the back. The last thing I'd say if you're buying these for off-road is which one off-road's better. Well, both of them are freaking proven in the off-road and overland scene. Both of them are people's choices over lots of other brands, lots of other vehicles. But if I had to pick one to off-road with, I'd pick the Tacoma. The reason being is that the longer wheelbase of the Tacoma, I feel it's a little bit more balanced, way less top heavy, whereas the 4Runner, I tip a lot like this when I off-road on our trails out here. They're nothing crazy in Florida, but the back end rear tires of the 4Runner definitely do tilt up a little bit more on obstacles, whereas the Tacoma over here is a lot more planted to the ground. I feel a lot more comfortable off-roading in a more of a truck scene than I do the 4Runner. So I do enjoy the 4Runner. I do enjoy off-roading the 4Runner whenever I have in the past, but if I was to pick one of these two to just be a dedicated off-road vehicle, it'd be that one. That one, it's the mall crawler. And last thing, maintenance, warranties, other issues. Between these two, none. 4Runner, I've had it for 5 years now. No issues with it. There may have been 1-2 little recalls with it, but no issues at all with the 4Runner. The Tacoma, had it for a year, no issues. The only ones were self-induced, and that was because of bad shops with the alignment with it. So the only issues that I've had was just it moving one way. That's, hey, you have aftermarket suspension on it, alignment shops didn't align it properly, but it is dialed now, and it drives as if it was stock, in my opinion. Both of them, they both have bigger tires on them. 4Runner has some steering wheel wobble, which is notable for the 5th gen 4Runners. They always have an issue around, I want to say, like 58 to 64-ish miles an hour. The steering wheel will just wobble a little bit. Tacoma, same issue. Bigger tires on it. Truck doesn't like it that much. Steering wheel will wobble a little bit every once in a while. So amenities of these vehicles are awesome. You can get them all the way up to a TRD off-road. Both have rear lockers, crawl control, multi-terrain select. The Tacoma actually has leather seats, whereas the 4Runner is Softex. I actually like Softex more than the leather seats in it because the Softex is holding up a lot better than the leather seats are on this one with almost 3 times the miles. But other than that, I mean, everything on these trucks is pretty much identical. It just comes down to the cabin space on the inside, and if you need a truck for truck stuff, or if you really don't and you can load it all into an SUV. So guys, I wanted to make that video for you to touch base on that one that I did a couple years ago after being an owner of a Tacoma for about a year. So whenever I want to drive a vehicle and I have the keys to both of them, I kind of picked the Tacoma a little bit more over the 4Runner just because of the JBL sound system it has in it. It's a fun vehicle to drive. I really do enjoy it. The Old Man Emu BP51 kit that I put on the Tacoma, oh my gosh, so plush, such a good ride with that Old Man Emu kit, and it looks cool. I really like the Voodoo Blue, love the Cavalry Blue of the 4Runner. The 4Runner is a vehicle that if I want a solid vehicle or we're taking the dog somewhere or something like that, 4Runner is always the choice for that. So guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know down in the comment section which one you would pick, and I'll catch you in the next video. All right, see you later.